Welcome back to Wild Drama Stories. Let's kick off with story number 1, which includes an update 1 year later. First of all, I apologize if this is badly written. English is not my first language, so please be kind. As the title goes, my 30 female husband's ex-girlfriend, 33 female, was recently diagnosed with late-stage breast cancer, and her last wish is to be with my husband, 35 male. My husband, let's call him Seb, and his ex Tanya became best friends after their breakup a couple of years ago due to her infidelity. They were together for 5 years. Needless to say, they remain in contact even before he met me. I would be lying if I say it never made me feel uncomfortable even once. It did, and it still does, because Tanya is still in love with my husband. She never denied it, and in fact would even call or message me when she can't get hold of Seb. Aside from cancer, she also has some mental health issues. Thus, my husband would always tell me to be kind and patient. Seb is no longer in love with her, of course. She cheated, and Seb swore that he will never get back to her and that he only sees her as family. 2 weeks ago, my husband received a call from Tanya to tell him about the sad news. My husband cried with her and told her everything is going to be okay. They were on the phone the whole day. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that Seb and I moved to Australia a few months ago because of my job, and Tanya is in Canada. They mostly talk via long-distance call or WhatsApp. They've been in contact almost every day since we left, which always bothers me, but what can I do? After that call, my husband told me everything. To be honest, I felt bad for her and I genuinely feel sad. I asked him what's going to happen now. Seb told me he's going back to Canada, which is a shock. He then told me that her last wish is to be with him. I didn't say anything except, what about me? He said if I can't leave my job, then he's going to visit me whenever he gets the chance. I walked out without saying anything. I've been avoiding my husband since the phone call, and have been ignoring him whenever he tries to bring up the conversation. Yesterday, I found out he already bought a ticket and is flying back home in January. I feel like he's abandoning me, but at the same time, I feel that I'm selfish for hating both of them. I'm honestly thinking of getting a divorce, because obviously he's choosing her over me. But at the same time, I thought of why my husband is so attached to her. Seb considered Tanya and her family like his own, as he doesn't have one. She's probably like a sister to him now, but Tanya doesn't feel the same. She's madly in love with my husband, and him granting her wish will surely make her think they still have a chance. My entire life, I've been putting others first. I've been very patient and understanding about their weird relationship. I feel sick, confused. I want to call her, yell at her for ruining my marriage, for trying to steal my husband from me, for using her sickness to get what she wants, for being a bee. I'm so mad at both of them. What did I do to deserve this? And here's Opie's first update. Thank you all for your comments and messages. I didn't expect my post to get this much attention. All I wanted is to get this off my chest so that I can focus on work and other things. I've been a mess, and being in another country with no one, only my husband, is making my situation worse. While some people think that Tanya might be lying about her condition, unfortunately, she's not. She was originally diagnosed a couple of years ago and has been on treatment for it. Only recently she found out it progressed and is now refusing further treatment. Sorry, I wasn't too clear about this. My husband said she's giving up. In fact, she wanted to give up a long time ago, but her family, including my husband, wanted her to fight. He's going back to Canada to be her support, as per her request. Seb did suggest that I go back home with him, but my job here in Australia is a dream come true for me, and I can't just abandon it, especially not for her. I know that divorce is the wise decision here. My husband obviously can't let go of her, and we can't build a life together if he has baggage. I love my husband so much, to the point that I endure all of these through the years. Thinking of divorce makes me feel like I'm dying, and I don't know if I will ever be ready to let go of him. I haven't talked to my husband yet, but I think he already knows what's going to happen. I apologize for everyone who's asking for an update. As many have guessed, I am not a good communicator, which is why the situation got this bad. I am particularly to blame for letting this happen to me, to us. I already contacted a lawyer to know the next step, Again, thank you for everyone for your comments and messages. It made me feel better. I feel horrible for wanting to stop a dying person's wish and for being mad with someone who's helpless. But you all are right. I should also think of myself. 1 year later, we have this update from Opie. First of all, I apologize for those people who's been messaging me in the past year asking for an update. I was a mess after what happened and couldn't talk about it even to my family. I was reminded of this post because someone messaged me on this Reddit account today. It's been over a year and a lot has happened. I think I'm now ready to talk. Seb did end up flying back to Canada January last year. Before he flew, we talked about the situation and I told him I've been in contact with a divorce lawyer. He was surprised. He said he didn't expect me to leave him just because he needs to be with his family. I remember at the time all I felt was anger. I was so mad that he's making it sound like I'm the bad person. Nevertheless, the conversation didn't end well. He left without any closure, but he said he will be back in March. I was left alone. January to March last year was the darkest days of my life. I knew I did nothing wrong, but I ended up blaming myself for everything. I hate to admit, but I cancelled the meeting with my lawyer as I started to doubt if I really want to leave him or not. I love him so much to the point that I'm willing to accept him again when he's back. During the entire time he was gone, he rarely called to check on me. I had to call him most of the time. I know, I'm dumb. I feel so alone and sad. I begged for his attention, to give me some of his time, to be with me again. All those times he kept telling me that Tanya needs him more. March, I was expecting him to come back so we can talk, but he didn't come back. He said he needs to stay more and promised me he will be back in May. I don't know what happened to me when I got that call from him early March to tell me he won't be flying back to Australia. At the time, I felt there's a switch that suddenly turned off because somehow I stopped crying. When he told me he won't be back until May, I knew I have to move forward without him. Fast forward to May, he was back. That day we sat down to talk. He broke down and said, I can't lose you too. When he said that, I thought Tanya was gone. But no, she's not. And as far as I know, she's still alive to this day. I asked what happened, and he told me that Tanya asked him to go back and be with me. He said that Tanya is sorry for everything. Seb didn't want to leave her, especially when he saw how bad she was doing. They had a fight, and according to him, Tanya wants him out of her life. If I was the same dumb person, I would totally accept him back. But at that time, all I can think was, he's only back because Tanya doesn't want him anymore. I let him cry. I comforted him and let him stay in my apartment. A week later, I told him I'm divorcing him. At first, he refused to leave. It was a long and painful process, but on my birthday in July, he finally realized that he couldn't manipulate me anymore. By August, he was back in Canada. Divorce is not finalized yet, but we have been separated since he left. He tried to contact me several times last year. Tanya also tried to contact me. Everyone, including my family, tried to convince me to give him a second chance. But that day in March, when I finally came back to my senses, I knew nothing can make me change my mind. As of now, I'm doing fine alone by myself. I got promoted last year and moved to a bigger apartment near the beach. I found new friends and recently getting into Pilates. I've traveled to Australia and New Zealand and met some amazing people. I feel like a completely different person. Last year was the major turning point of my life. Seb still bothers me from time to time, but he knows I couldn't care less anymore. Sometimes I talk to him. I still care, but not as much. I've been told by our common friends that he's not doing well. He became an alcoholic and couldn't get a job because of it. He's mostly couch surfing because Tanya doesn't want him to live with her. LOL. That bee. Thank you so much, Reddit, for taking the time reading this and my post last year. Your advice means a lot to me. For those people who are in the same situation as me, please know that everything is going to be better. I thought I can't get through this. There are times I thought of taking my own life. It was hard. But I promise you it will be better. You'd be surprised how strong you are and how amazing life can be. Well, Opie, I'm glad to hear that you're doing so much better, and in fact that you're happy and you're fulfilled in your life. And as for your husband, soon-to-be ex-husband, you're right, he did make a choice, and his choice was to go and be with Tanya. And I do find it hard to believe that he saw her only as a friend, as family, because he went away for such a long time, and you hardly ever heard from him during that time. So something isn't right. And what did they fight about? Why is it that suddenly she doesn't want him in her life? The whole thing is just so strange. I think there's a whole lot more to this than you realize. But this whole thing about staying in contact, and in frequent contact in this case with an ex, it just doesn't work. For some people it does, for whatever reasons. For some people it does work. But I've seen so many stories where somebody just doesn't want to let go of an ex, and they stay in contact with that person even though they've got no children in common or anything keeping them together. They refuse to stop speaking to that person regardless of how their new partner feels about it. It's disrespect if you're constantly talking to an ex, knowing that your new partner, your new spouse, doesn't feel comfortable with it. And as you said, the only reason he came back was because Tanya didn't want him anymore. So yes, he made his bed and now he just has to live with it. And you, on the other hand, good for you. You're moving on with your life, and I wish you the best. And it sounds like you do have the best right now. Story number 2. Opie writes, I, 21 female, really want to break up with my boyfriend, 21 male, but I can't, and I don't know how to. I am really desperate for advice. I've been with my boyfriend for 15 months, and I just can't take it anymore. Today was the last straw when he yelled at me on the road at 3, threw the helmet on some car and walked off. For context, we work in a very busy city, and the roads are very crowded. I got a bike for us to use, since a car makes it worse in the traffic. We drove it for 5 days, and we were near death 5 times. Almost hit a bus, another car, etc. He refuses to admit it was his fault. He genuinely thinks it wasn't his fault any of the 5 times. It was his fault. He doesn't look around before taking a turn, goes full speed when he sees slightly low traffic, etc. I try to reason with him and make him understand, because if he doesn't even see his fault, how can his driving get better? Then a couple of days ago, we did get into a minor accident where I hurt my foot really badly. I can walk, but not without limping. I got really angry after he said that it was the car's fault that was literally stationary. Yes, it was parked. I told him I don't trust him driving anymore, and I am driving us home now. My exact words were, I got really hurt. The back of my foot is bleeding. Just sit back. You can't drive and I don't trust it anymore. And he got really upset over that. Like he wouldn't talk to me. His point was, I sat with him on a bike on a highway, and that says a lot about my driving. You trusted me then. You can't trust me now? I was still calm and tried to talk to him. He didn't listen, didn't even try to. I ended up apologizing. Now he won't even touch the bike, and said no matter what, he wouldn't drive because he's deeply hurt by my comment. I apologized 1,000 times. Now today, we went out to get ice cream, and it was really late at night, so there were barely any vehicles on the road. I was driving and got really cold with the wind hitting my chest. I asked my boyfriend if he can drive. He said no. I told him I'm getting really cold, and I fall sick easily, and when I do, I am sick for days. He still said no. He said we can go back home and change, but he wouldn't drive. Fine, I choose to just drive, since going back and changing would take at least 20 more minutes, and we needed to come back in 15, so it made no sense to go back. While driving, I drove slow and kept stopping, since I would get cold. We got into an argument that he would rather put up this grudge than risking my health. He said he doesn't care and he wouldn't drive. The argument heated up and he started yelling. He does this a lot. A lot. He swore on his life, my life, his mom's life, his dog's life, that he would never raise his voice again. But 2 days later, he does it each time. This was easily the 100th time he did this in public. This time I yelled back and he yelled back louder. Everyone was looking at us, and it was the most humiliating experience of my life. Actually, no, it was when he yelled and made a scene on my birthday and broke up with me because I didn't open his gift with as much joy as he expected. He gave me a photo of us and left. Then he called me and yelled at me more. Then he called his friends 'cause I wouldn't pick up and yelled at them. This went on all night. Like a complete effing idiot, I went to him, made him understand, and patched things up with him. Pathetic, I know. I am sick of his yelling, and I have started to realize that this will never change. Yep, it took 15 months for me to realize. Now, how do I break up with him? We live together. Let's get a comment with a reply from OP before we go to OP's update. So he has driving issues, anger issues, entitlement issues, and a whole bunch of other issues on top. Girl, you have your whole life ahead of you. Search for your own place, or go to your family or friends if you cannot afford one. But please, pack your stuff. Tell him it's not working, and whatever you do, don't let him change your mind. He will try apologizing, gaslighting, blaming, whining. Ignore it all. Keep in mind that it probably won't be sincere. Even if he does love you, he has a lot of stuff that he needs to work through before he's ready for a relationship. You'll be okay. People separate after 20 years of marriage with kids and mutual assets, and they still figure it out. You'll be fine. Opie replies, "Thank you. I really needed this. Livelihood is not an issue, as the place is in my name and I pay the whole rent. We do split groceries and other bills, but it's something I can manage. I just don't know how I will carry on without him, because I do really love him. Other than our fights, he is amazing, caring and loving, but the fights are too much for me to bear. Just a few hours after breaking up used to happen a lot. I missed him terribly and would crawl back to him like an idiot." And here's Opie's update. It really was a lot. I obviously cannot include everything since it was so messy. I am really sorry for the formatting. I still feel overwhelmed, and it is more like a word vomit. Context: my boyfriend risked my life over other things. So, after my last post, we broke up, and we got back together. Someone said I have the spine of Jello, which is spot on, and I'm ashamed to prove it further in this update. While I told him we are over, he got really aggressive. He yelled and called me names, and then treated me like I was the best thing that ever happened to him. I'm used to it. It is a cycle. Someone said I am addicted to misery, which is so true, proving that further too in my post. Of course, he said beautiful things and reminded me of the times we had a great time. Of course, I fell for it again. Yes, I love him, still do, so I ended up right back in his arms, and then we had another fight the following week. He manipulated me so much. He threw things around, and I was really scared. He is much bigger and stronger than I am, so there clearly was no scope of defense for me. It was 3 a.m. and I live in a very unsafe country. I left since he would not leave. I was alone on the streets and he let me leave, saying I should live on the streets. Mind you, I pay in full for the house we live in. Whatever. Then 5 minutes later he is blasting my phone, asking me to come back. I refused to come unless he left. After an hour of this, he found me to tell me I have never felt fear like that. He told me I was using his love and caring by running away, knowing he will find me. He still thinks I did this because I am using him. Whatever. Of course we made up after that too. Oh yes, and I tried to off myself. I got back to my senses a few minutes into it. Yes, still went back to him after all this. But this time I was really unhappy. I didn't like it. So a couple of days later I tried to break up again. I pushed his arm slightly. His arm didn't even move, and it was really light, not aggressive at all, while we were arguing, and that was it. He pushed me. He hit me. He hit my head against the wall. I had bruises all over my body that have still not healed. It has been over a week. He said truly horrible crap about my mom, which I will tone 10 times down. You know what? I cannot even type the toned down version of it. Something you would not say to the worst person on the planet too. And then he finally left. I puked and puked because he hit my chest while I was having a panic attack, and that started a chain of reactions. And then 20 minutes later, he was at my door again. I was so scared. Truly scared. I never opened the door, and he came back at least 6 times. He told me he will change, and he doesn't know the man who did this to me. Like, what? And made endless promises. I didn't contact him for 2 days, until I felt really sorry for his living conditions. We both had decided he will get a random cheap place to live with me, since we cannot let our families know we are living together. Yes, I let him in again, but did not get back with him. He kept apologizing, convincing me to get back, but I did not budge. He went back to his hometown to his family for a few days. So I downloaded Hinge, made a profile. This was when I told him we will see if we can work out. And I mainly said that since he would not stop calling me from different numbers while I was at work, he found my profile from someone, and to say he is beyond livid. Of course he called me a crap ton of names and left. It worked. I did it to hurt him a little back, and I knew it would get me rid of him. The worst part is, I thought it will feel good, giving some hurt back, but it really didn't. I feel horrible that I did it, hurt him. I hate that I feel like this, and I hate that I still love him. Ugh. But at least we are over. Well, I hope, OP, that it really is over now because, as somebody said previously in one of the comments, your ex has a lot of issues, anger issues, which is top of the list and most concerning. And it's just like, it reminds me of a child throwing tantrums and also dangerous. And it's not going to get better, OP, and you know it's not going to get better. So this time you better stick to your decision because you already know what's going to happen if you go back. It's going to be the same thing, as you said, the cycle. Well, that's it for this edition of Wild Drama Stories. Thank you so much for listening. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.